By the early 1970s, much had changed in America since the golden age of cinema. Segregation had ended and chants of black power echoed across the nation as black Americans rightfully demanded their seat at the table in a white-centered society. As economically advantaged white families shifted from cities to the suburbs, they left behind urban cinemas, which began to notice the decline in popularity for musicals and other previously popular genres of film. As a result, Hollywood could no longer ignore black audiences and their desire to be represented within film. Blaxploitation is a term that was first coined by then LA NAACP leader Junius Griffin. The name describes the exploitation of black audiences to increase profits for cinemas. The films of blaxploitation are characterized by their low budgets, taboo subject matter, and definitively, their black leading actors and supporting casts who typically go up against the man, a figure symbolic of oppressive and corrupt institutions. Blaxploitation cinema became highly popular and, most importantly to white studios, extremely profitable in the early 1970s. The iconic blaxploitation film Shaft has become recognized as the film that saved MGM Studios, the studio once responsible for Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz, from going bankrupt. Blaxploitation films always feature black protagonists, but their subject matter varies. Blaxploitation film includes everything from horror spoofs like Blackula to more conventional crime thrillers, which often generated the most success, like Superfly or Shaft. However, it was also those crime thrillers that received the most criticism for their subject matter, and their portrayal of black characters as almost exclusively drug dealers, pimps, and bounty hunters. Characters engaged in senseless violence, drug use, and frequent casual sex. This drew intense criticism from civil rights activists like Jesse Jackson and groups like the NAACP. They believed that blaxploitation failed to elevate black characters above the negative stereotypes that furthered discrimination against black people. The following clip from Shaft depicts violence as it was typically displayed in blaxploitation film, as well as the fast-paced editing, practical effects, and dramatic action synonymous with the low-budget genre. While the violence depicted in the clip from Shaft is extreme, it is also typical of white action films like the James Bond franchise, which was extremely popular at the time. The primary difference is that, for once, the violence is centered around a black character beating up white characters. Modern viewers should understand that at the time, black audiences were so tired of black characters being reduced to sidekicks, or worse, brutalized victims in action films, that they welcomed a new movement entirely centered around black characters in lead roles as a sign of progress. It should be noted that even when playing characters like pimps or gangsters, blaxploitation actors like Ron O'Neal or Pam Grier presented themselves above all as strong, empowered, and unashamedly black in a society designed around white people. Black audiences felt empowered watching stories where black characters stood up to oppressive white figures and actually won. Take a look at this next clip, also from Shaft, paying special attention to the character dynamic between the black protagonist and the other men in the clip.
Come on now, I'll buy you a cup of coffee, huh? Go sit in the park a minute?
Hell no. Just tell me what you gotta say right here.
Tom, why don't you go get us a couple of cigars? What kind you smoke, Shaft?
Just say what you gotta say, big, huh?
Get us a couple of El Garcios, huh, Tom?
In the previous clip, Shaft is shown as physically dominant over the detective and his accomplice. Camera angles further the fact that he towers over the men, and the tone of his speech suggests confidence and authority that had rarely been depicted in black characters prior to the rise of blaxploitation. Blaxploitation was extremely popular during its brief lifespan of the early 70s to around 1976, but its impact continues to be felt today. With the possible exception of wuxia and other martial arts movies, Quentin Tarantino cites blaxploitation as one of his greatest inspirations, going so far as to create Jackie Brown, a film that stars and pays homage to the movement's most iconic actress, Pam Grier. Most importantly, however, is the role blaxploitation played in paving the way for black directors, actors, and others in the film industry to get ahead. In the wake of blaxploitation, directors like John Singleton and Spike Lee created generation-defining films in movies inspired directly by blaxploitation, like Boys in the Hood, and movies more subtly inspired by blaxploitation, like Do the Right Thing. Despite controversy in the subject matter, blaxploitation cinema showed Hollywood that audiences were more than ready for stories to be told through film by black directors with black actors for mainstream audiences.